The Jupiter monitoring station floated in the darkness of space like a metal island, its massive sensor arrays turned slowly, scanning the void for signals from distant stars. Inside the station, Jake Morrison sat at his communications desk watching. Waves of data flow across his screens. The night shift was usually quiet, but tonight something was different. A strange signal cut through the background noise of space. Jake leaned forward, adjusting his headset as the computer tried to make sense of the transmission. The signal was weak but desperate, repeating the same message over and over as the translation program worked. Jake's eyes widened. Captain Rodriguez to communications. Jake called over the intercom. His voice carried an urgency that made everyone in the control room look up. Captain Elena Rodriguez arrived within minutes, her boots clicking against the metal floor. She was a veteran of 20 years in space, and Jake had never seen her move so fast. "What do you have?" "Morrison, ma'am, you need to hear this." Jake played the translated message through the speakers. A voice filled the room, alien but clearly intelligent. The tone was filled with fear and sadness. "This is Elder Tova of the Wani people. We send this message to any who can hear us. Our worlds are dying. The Keth Empire has come to our system. They have burned 2 of our planets already. 12 million of our people remain on our homeworld of Vela Prime." The message continued, painting a picture of horror. The Velaini described themselves as farmers and teachers, people who had never known war. They had no weapons, no armies, only the hope that someone in the galaxy might help them. The Keth fleet grows larger each day. They take our people for slaves before they kill the rest. We have 17 days before their final attack. Please, if anyone receives this message, help us. We do not ask you to fight for us. We only ask that you help our people escape before the end comes. The transmission ended, leaving the control room in silence. Captain Rodriguez stared at the speakers, her face hard with thought. She had heard of the K Empire before. They were known throughout the galaxy as destroyers, a species that wiped out entire civilizations for sport. "How far away are they?" Rodriguez asked. Jake checked his calculations. 3 weeks at maximum FTL speed. "Captain, maybe less if we push the engines hard." Rodriguez nodded slowly. 3 weeks to reach a dying civilization. Days before the Keth finished their work, the math was simple and terrible. This transmission to Earth, Fleet Command. Immediately, Rodriguez ordered priority Alpha protocols. "And Jake, keep monitoring that signal. I want to know if anything changes." On Earth, Admiral Marcus Webb received the transmission in his office overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The old soldier read the report twice, then played the audio message. He had spent 40 years protecting humanity from threats both known and unknown. Now, for the first time, humans had the chance to protect someone else. Webb activated his secure communication system and began calling his senior staff. Within an hour, the emergency meeting room was full of Earth's best military minds. The Vani message played again, and the room fell silent. "Recommendations?" Webb asked simply. General Patricia Hayes spoke first. Sir, we have 3 battle groups that can be ready to move within 48 hours. The question is whether we should get involved in alien conflicts. 12 million people are going to die." Webb replied, "That's not an alien conflict, that's genocide." Commander Robert Singh leaned forward. Admiral, our ships have never been tested against alien technology. We don't know what we're facing. Webb stood and walked to the large display showing the galaxy. A red dot marked the system, impossibly far from Earth, but somehow feeling very close, Commander. Our ships were built to survive anything. Our crews have trained for every possible threat. If we can't help people who are about to be murdered, then what's the point of having a fleet at all? The debate continued for hours, but Webb had already made his decision. Earth would respond to the Vanni distress call. The only question was how big a force. To send 3 battle groups, Webb announced full deployment. Titan's Hammer for heavy assault, Storm's Edge for rapid response and safe harbor. For evacuation operations, we leave Earth in 36 hours. Across Earth, the mobilization began in shipyards from Luna to Mars. Crews worked around the clock, preparing vessels for combat. The heavy battleships of Titan's Hammer checked their weapon systems and armor plating. The fast cruisers of Storm's Edge loaded supplies for long-range operations. The massive cargo ships of Safe Harbor were quickly converted into refugee transports. Captain Tom Anderson stood in the cargo bay of his ship, the New Hope, watching engineers install emergency life support systems. His vessel could normally carry mining equipment and industrial supplies. Now it would carry families fleeing from death. How many can we fit? Anderson asked his chief engineer. 50,000. If we pack them tight? Captain, not comfortable, but they'll be alive. Anderson nodded. Comfort was not important right now. Survival was everything. Meanwhile, on the outer edge of the solar system, Commander Lisa Park prepared her stealth ship, Ghost Walker, for immediate departure. Her mission was simple but dangerous: reach the Vanni system ahead of the main fleet and gather intelligence on the KE forces. We'll be going in blind. Park told her crew. No backup, no support, just us and whatever we find out there. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant David Ross, checked their weapon systems. How do we know the Vanni aren't lying? This could be a trap. Park considered the question. It was possible, but the fear in the alien voices had sounded real. We don't know, but if they're telling the truth and we do nothing, 12 million people die. If it's a trap and we're careful, maybe we can get out alive. The crew of Ghost Walker accepted the mission without complaint. They were scouts and soldiers trained to take risks so others could be safe. Back on Jupiter Station, Jake Morrison continued monitoring the transmissions. The messages were getting more desperate. The aliens reported KET ships arriving daily, building their forces for the final assault. Children's voices could be heard in the background asking questions. Their parents could not answer. Captain Rodriguez watched the data streams with growing anger. She had spent her career protecting human colonies from pirates and hostile environments. Now she was watching an entire species prepare to die, and there was nothing she could do but wait for the fleet to arrive. Captain Jake called out new transmission from the Volani. This time the voice was different, younger and more afraid. This is Healer Nera of the Vanni. Medical Council, the Kathy Ace, have landed ground forces on our moon. They are taking our people. We do not understand why they do this. We have offered them everything we have, but they only want to hurt us. If anyone can hear this message, please remember that we existed. Remember that we tried to be good. The transmission ended, and Jake Morrison felt something inside him change. He had never met these aliens, never seen their faces, but suddenly their survival mattered more than his own safety across human space. The same feeling spread through the crews preparing for departure. This was no longer just a military mission. It had become something more personal, more important than any battle they had ever fought. The fleet would launch, soon carrying humanity's answer to the Varney plea for help. Earth had heard their call, and the Deathworlders were coming. Earth's orbital shipyards had never seen activity like this before. Thousands of workers moved like ants across the massive construction platforms, preparing humanity's greatest fleet for its first alien war. The sound of welding torches and heavy machinery filled the void around Earth. His three battle groups took shape. Admiral Webb stood on the bridge of his flagship Tarara's Wrath, watching the final preparations through the massive viewing windows. The ship was a monster of metal and weapons built to survive anything the universe could throw at it. Like all human vessels, it was designed by people who came from a world that tried to kill them every day. Admiral All Ships report. Ready for departure, announced Commander Sarah Mitchell, his second in command. She was young but experienced, having served in the asteroid mining conflicts, where humans first learned to fight in space. Webb nodded, his eyes still fixed on the fleet assembling around them, 57 ships in total, carrying the hopes of an entire species. Signal all vessels. We depart in 1 hour. Across the fleet, final preparations were being made on the battleship Iron Thunder. Captain James Wright addressed his crew over the intercom. His voice was calm, but serious, the tone of a man who had seen combat before. Listen up, people. We're about to do something that's never been done before. We're going to war for people we've never met, in a place we've never been, against an enemy we don't fully understand. But here's what I do know. 12 million innocent people are going to die if we don't act. That's not acceptable. Similar speeches were being given throughout the fleet. Captain Maria Santos on the cruiser Storm Rider told her crew about the children's voices in the transmissions. Captain Bill Foster on the heavy carrier Titans. Shield spoke about the duty to protect those who could not protect themselves. The response was the same. Everywhere, the crews were ready. Earth's children were going to war, and they would not fail. Meanwhile, light years away, Commander Lisa Park's stealth ship, Ghostwalker, was already deep in hyperspace racing toward the Villani system. Her small crew worked quietly in the cramped ship, checking weapons and sensors for the 100th time. How long since the last transmission? Park asked Communications Officer Lieutenant Kelly Price. 6 hours, Commander. They're still broadcasting, but the signals are getting weaker. Either their equipment is failing or the K are jamming them. Park frowned. Every hour of silence made her more worried about what they would find when they arrived. The Vani had seemed so helpless in their messages, like children crying in the dark in the ship's small weapons locker. Sergeant Mike Davis cleaned his rifle with practiced hands. He was a veteran of Earth's corporate wars, a man who had learned to fight in the tunnels under Mars and the ice caves of Europa. The thought of defenseless aliens being hunted like animals made his blood boil. Sergeant, what do you think we're going to find out there? Asked Corporal Amy Lee, the team's demolitions expert. Davis looked up from his weapon. Hell, probably, but that's what we're trained for. They don't have soldiers like us. They don't come from a world that makes killers. That's why they need us back in the Varney system. The situation was getting worse by the hour. General Vox stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching his forces position themselves around the helpless planet. Below the KE were a proud warrior race conquerors who had destroyed dozens of civilizations. How many slaves have we collected? Vox asked his aide, a smaller K named Captain Dra. 30,000. General, the weak ones die quickly, but some are strong enough for the labor camps. Vox nodded with satisfaction. The Varney were perfect slaves, too scared to fight back, and smart enough to follow orders. After the final cleansing, the survivors would work in Keth mines until they died. What about these humans who responded to the transmission? Vox asked. Captain Dra consulted his datapad. Unknown species general. The transmission came from a system called Sol. Our intelligence has no records of them, probably another weak race like the Viney, Vox said with contempt. Send a message, tell them this territory belongs to the Kathith Empire. If they interfere, we will destroy them. The message was broadcast toward the approaching human fleet, a warning wrapped in arrogance. General Vox had conquered 40 star systems. He had never met an enemy that Kathith could not defeat. On Earth, the families of the departing fleet gathered to say goodbye. At the Lunar City spaceport, Captain Anderson hugged his wife and 2 young children. His daughter asked why he had to go so far away to help people they had never met, because that's what humans do. Anderson told her, "We help people who need help, even if we don't know them, even if it's dangerous." His wife understood. She had married a spacer, a man who spent his life protecting others. This mission was bigger than any he had taken before. But it was the same calling that had always driven him. Similar scenes played out across human space. Wives kissed husbands goodbye, parents held their adult children one last time, friends shook hands and promised to see each other again. The human fleet was not just carrying weapons and supplies, it was carrying the hopes and prayers of an entire world. Admiral Webb received the KE warning transmission as his fleet prepared to enter hyperspace. He read the message twice, then deleted it without comment. The Chempire would learn soon enough. Did not kill for resources or territory. They killed for pleasure. Commander Lieutenant Price called from her station. Long-range sensors are picking up massive hyperspace signatures. It's the fleet park moved to the command station and activated the communication system. Admiral Webb, this is Ghost Walker. We have intelligence and rescued Vania aboard. The situation is worse than we thought. Admiral Webb's voice came through clearly. Despite the distance report, Commander, sir, the Kaith fleet numbers over 200 ships. They have complete control of the system. 3 planets are dead, and they're slowly killing the 4th. They're not just conquering Admiral, they're torturing an entire species for entertainment. There was silence on the channel for a long moment. When Webb spoke again, his voice was harder than Park had ever heard it. Understood. Commander, continue surveillance. The fleet will arrive in 18 hours. And Commander, good work on Therescu. As the transmission ended, Elder Nera approached Park with something in her hands. It was a small crystal glowing with soft blue light. This is a memory stone, Nera explained. It contains the history of our people, our art, our songs. if you cannot save us, please take this to your world. Let someone remember that we existed. Park accepted, the crystal feeling its warmth in her hands. Elder Nera, I want you to understand something. That my people don't give up. We don't abandon those who need help. The Kaith Empire thinks they're the strongest predator in the galaxy, but they've never met humans before. Nera looked into Park's eyes and saw something that gave her hope for the first time in days. These humans had the eyes of hunters, of survivors. They came from a world that had made them strong. Meanwhile, on the KE command ship, General Vox received reports of the approaching human fleet. His tactical officers showed him the sensor readings, the massive energy signatures moving through hyperspace toward his position. How many ships? Vox asked. 57 confirmed. General, much smaller than our fleet. Vox laughed. A sound like grinding metal. Then they will provide entertainment before they die. Prepare the fleet for battle. I want to see what these humans are made of before we add their world to our list of conquests. The general turned to look at the planet below, where millions of Vanni huddled in their shelters, waiting for death or salvation. Soon he would have both Vanni and human slaves to play with. In the darkness between stars, the human fleet raced toward its first alien war, carrying the hopes of two species in the fury of a world that had never learned to surrender. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, like thunder breaking the silence. 57 ships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls dark against the stars. Admiral Webb stood on the bridge of Tarara's Wrath, watching the tactical display update with enemy positions 237. KE vessels, reported Commander Mitchell. They're moving to intercept US. Admiral Webb nodded calmly. The odds were 4-1 against them, but he'd expected worse. Signal all ships battle formation. Alpha Titan's hammer takes point. Storm's edge flanks left and right. Safe Harbor holds back for evacuation duties. Throughout the fleet, captains received their orders and began positioning their ships. Captain Wright on iron thunder-checked his weapons systems one final time. His battleship carried enough firepower to level a city, but he had never used it against an alien enemy. All guns ready, Captain, reported his weapons. Officer Lieutenant Paul Harris. Targeting systems locked on the lead. KE ships. Hold fire until the Admiral gives the word. Wright replied, let's see what they're made of. First, on the K, command, Ship General Vox watched the human fleet approach with amusement. The ships looked primitive compared to K, designs built heavy and ugly like the tools of simple miners. Their formation is clumsy, observed. Captain Dra. They bunch together like frightened animals, signal the human commander. Vox ordered, I want to speak with him before we destroy his fleet. The communication came through on all human frequencies. General Vox's image appeared on screens throughout the fleet, a tall creature with dark red skin and yellow eyes that held no mercy. I am General Vox of the Kaith Empire. The alien announced, you have entered our territory and interfered with our operations. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick. Resist, and we will take your world next. Admiral Webb stepped forward, on his own bridge, allowing the KTH to see him clearly. He was an old man with gray hair and calm eyes, but something in his expression made even seasoned officers take notice. General Vox, I am Admiral Webb of the Terran fleet, you have exactly 60 seconds to withdraw your forces from this system and release ally prisoners. After that, we will consider you hostile targets." Vox laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the communication channel. "Old man, you have 50 ships against my 200. Your bravery is admirable, but foolish." Webb checked his watch calmly. 50 seconds, General. "You must be joking." Vox replied, "What can 50 primitive ships do against the might of the K Empire?" 40 seconds, Webb announced. To his fleet, ignoring the alien general completely, Fox's expression changed from amusement to anger. No one had ever dismissed him so casually. "You will regret this decision, human. I will make your deaths last for days." 10 seconds, Webb said quietly. Then he looked directly into the camera. "General Vox, you're about to learn why Earth is classified as a death world." The communication ended. For armament, space was silent, except for the hum of engines and the charging of weapon systems. Time Webb announced, "All ships, execute Thunder Run. Show them how humans fight." The human fleet exploded into motion with a coordination and speed that caught the KE completely off guard. Instead of the slow, predictable advance Vox expected, the human ship scattered into attack formations that made no sense by conventional military doctrine. Captain Stone's Mountain Breaker led the first wave, diving directly toward the center of the KE formation. Key weapons opened fire, energy beams and plasma bolts filling the space between fleets. The humans should have been torn apart in the opening seconds. Instead, the human ships absorbed the damage like it were nothing. Energy weapons that should have melted their hulls barely scorched the armor plating. Plasma bolts that should have crippled their engines were shrugged off like raindrops. "Impossible," General Vox whispered. Ash watched. His most powerful weapons failed to stop the human advance. No ship can survive that much firepower. Captain Dra checked his sensors frantically. "General, their ships are built like fortresses. The armor is 3 times thicker than anything we've ever seen." The first human ship reached the K formation and opened fire. Their assaults were devastating. Human weapons designed to punch through asteroid rock and space debris tore through KE shields like paper. A KE cruiser exploded in a ball of fire as human missiles found their mark. "Return fire. All ships concentrate on the lead vessel," Vox screamed. But the humans were not fighting like any enemy the Kath had faced before. As soon as one ship drew enemy fire, 2 others would appear from different angles, hitting the KE ships where they were weakest. The human formation flowed like water, constantly changing and adapting. Captain Maria Santos in Storm Rider led her squadron in a flanking maneuver that brought them behind the K right wing. Her weapons officer, Lieutenant Kate Morgan, targeted the engine sections of 3 K destroyers simultaneously. "Fire," Santos ordered calmly. The human missiles struck home, crippling the Keth ships and leaving them drifting helplessly. But instead of finishing them off, Santos moved her squadron to the next target. She had orders to disable as many ships as possible, not waste time on kills. This confused the Kaith even more. In their experience, enemies tried to destroy each other completely. These humans seemed more interested in removing threats than collecting victories. The battle turned into a nightmare for General Vox. Every time he thought he understood the human tactics, they changed, human ships would appear where sensors said, "Nothing exists. Strike hard and vanish." Before the Kathy could respond, Commander Park's Ghost Walker used its stealth systems to guide larger human ships to perfect attack positions. Captain Wright's Iron Thunder became the hammer that smashed KE formations after Park's ship showed them where to strike. General, we've lost 40 ships, Captain Dra reported, his voice shaking. The humans have lost only 3. Vox stared at the tactical display in disbelief. This was supposed to be an easy victory, a chance to destroy primitives who dared to challenge the K Empire. Instead, his veteran fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that fought like nothing he had ever seen. The humans did not fight with honor or glory. They fought like predators, using every advantage and showing no mercy to those who showed none to others. When a Keth ship was disabled, human boarding parties would storm aboard to rescue Vanni prisoners, fighting through the corridors with a ferocity that terrified the KE soldiers. Sergeant Davis led one such boarding action on a KE transport ship. His squad moved through the alien vessel like ghosts, their training from Earth's dangerous environment serving them well in the cramped, hostile corridors. Vanni prisoners in Cargo Bay 3, reported Corporal Lee over the radio. Looks like about 200 of them. Secure them and prep for evacuation, Davis ordered. Then he turned to face a group of K soldiers who had been guarding the prisoners. They were bigger than humans with natural armor and claws that could tear metal. But as the fight began, the K discovered something that would haunt their species for generations. Humans were not the biggest or strongest predators in the galaxy, but they were the most adaptable. They fought with weapons, tools, and a cunning that turned every environment into an advantage. Within minutes, the KE soldiers were defeated, and the Vanni Priso